What's up everyone and welcome back to Hopeful Multiverse. If you're coming from my other wall riding video, I apologize to have two videos. The more I've played this game, much more have I learned, so I just wanted to go more advanced into the wall riding mechanic that's new to the game. With that being said, in this video we're going to be discussing numerous different ways to show you guys how to wall ride, so let's just jump right into it. The first mechanic we're going to discuss to wall ride is going to be the charge jump. And this is the one that I covered in my first video. So if you've seen this mechanic already, just skip ahead a little bit and we're going to get to more advanced stuff. From the charge jump though, just to discuss what the charge jump is, it is a new mechanic in Mario Kart World. So it's going to use similar function as our drifting. The only difference is rather than steering left or right, we just want to make sure we're driving straight forward. And with a straight drive, we're just going to hold that right trigger and we will drop our wheels to the ground like that. And there's two different colors. We have our blue and our red being the highest level of charge jump. And in that feature, we can wall ride. So to use it to wall ride, we're going to have to get our charge jump going. And once it's started, we can start steering, and what we're going to do in that charge jump is we're going to be able to jump left or right. So if I steer to the left and let go of that right trigger, I will jump to the left. If I go into the charge jump and jump to the right, I'll jump to the right. So in this case, we're going to use this wall directly behind me. And we're going to start our wall riding function, and as we approach this wall, we're just going to jump to the right, steer to the right, and once we jump off the ground, we'll start a wall ride. With that being said, that is not ideal because with a charge jump, you don't have a lot of speed to wall ride for a long period of time. So we're going to discuss how to increase your time further in the video, but that is the first way that we can wall ride is by that charge jump. Ramps can also be used to wall ride. Now to use a ramp, it does not necessarily have to look like this, but just to showcase that pretty much any ramp at an angle towards a wall can be used, I'm going to showcase the one at Peach Stadium. Now with that being said, you do have to go at sort of an angle to that wall, otherwise this mechanic will not work, and to get it to work, you will need to perform a trick. So at the top of your ramp, you just want to make sure that you're pressing your right trigger to get that started. So we're just going to go off this little ramp, perform my trick, and start the wall riding mechanic that way. A Tanookie Feather can also be used to wall ride. This is a difficult one to use. You do want to use it prior to reaching the wall, because if you are still performing in the middle of your trick, it will not start that wall riding mechanic. So you do want to pretty much be wrapping up your trick as you hit that wall, and if you time it correctly, you can use it to wall ride. For this next method, we're going to introduce grinding. So grinding is another new mechanic in the game. To grind, there's various different ways to start it. There's some places where you can ride right on top of the rail like that. However, there's also other locations where we may have to use a charge jump or jump off a wall to start that grinding mechanic. But once we get into the grind, if you steer to the left and you jump, you will jump off of the rail to the left, and you can also do the same to the right. So depending on which way the wall is, you can start a wall riding mechanic from that way. And let's show you an area where that will be used. Okay, so here we're going to approach the same wall that we approached to use the ramp, and we're going to use the ramp to wall ride on top of the rail above it, and then we're going to use that grinding technique to jump over to the right. So we're going to hold our steering wheel over to the right and press that right trigger off of that grind to wall ride that secondary wall over there. So just to give you an idea of what this looks like, we're going to jump up on this ramp here and use this bump here to jump up on the wall over here. And this technique can actually be used to collect a peach medallion at the top of this sign over here. So you're just going to use that grinding technique again to jump over to the left to collect that peach medallion. And this can also be used various places throughout the map, but again, what we want to do in that grind is hit our right trigger and either hold our steering to the left or the right, whichever the direction of the wall is. Boosted ramps can also be used to wall ride. Now to use boosted ramps, you do have to perform a trick off of them while facing the direction of the wall that you want to wall ride. So with that being said, there's not too many that you can use throughout the map, but there are some strategic places to use shortcuts. So for that feature, I just need to make sure that I use a trick going off of it and face the direction of the wall to use the wall ride that way. This is one that I do not condone. Our poor NPCs are just trying to live their lives out on the street, but with that being said, we can use walking NPCs on the streets to also start the wall ride. So if we drive off of these NPCs and perform a trick, we can actually use them to boost up and to start that wall ride. A more advanced mechanic in the game involves using trees, light poles, or various other objects that are placed around the map. You can actually use these objects mid-air to perform tricks to give you more airtime and to also get to different walls that you may not be able to in another fashion. So in this case, just to show you all, I'm going to use that charge jump that I taught you earlier in this video, and we're just going to use this to create a trick off of this lamp to go into the wall ride, and that's just another way that you can do it. But again, that's more of an advanced technique, but it can be used across the city or in races to get to shortcuts, so just keep those in mind and look for areas where you have those objects. And our last technique is definitely more of an advanced technique. If you find the trucks that give you the ramps with wings similar to these, and you go off and you get your wings, if you get closer to a wall and you do a trick against the wall, you can actually go into that wall riding function there too. So for this portion of the video, I'm going to try to explain a lot of the physics behind wall rides to answer some of the questions that I had in my initial video. So just to kind of go through some of those, the first question I got asked is, can you steer on the wall? And the answer to that is yes and no. So you do have the capability of holding left or right, depending on which way the wall is, to get a little bit of an angle to steer up, but you can't fully control your vehicle on the wall. So if I hold right, I do give myself the opportunity to stay on the wall longer, but depending on how you go off of that wall, it uses a lot of real life physics, which means if I'm on a ramp and I have a lot of speed, I may get more increase up. If not, I may fall down quicker. So you just kind of have to understand that there's a little bit of physics to that wall riding mechanic, and that can encourage things. With that being said, if you have mushroom, star, or something similar to that, you may be able to increase the time that you are on the wall. So that's just something to keep in mind as you're trying to perform those wall tricks or get those panel locations, is that does play a part in it. If you have a mushroom, you will stay on the wall much longer. The other difficult thing, because it uses more real life physics, if walls or buildings have little bumps on them, as you all saw right there, they can bump you off, and that can happen quite a bit. So that can also immediately stop your wall ride. So you do have to be careful with how you do it. The next piece, I'm actually going to jump to dandelion depths to kind of explain more further on the curvature of walls, because that can also play a role into it too. Alright, so now in this portion of the video, we're going to talk about concave and convex walls, which is just the shape of the wall and how that plays a role in the physics behind the wall riding mechanics. So on a flat wall, if you have a small bump, again, it can bump you off, and you have a little bit of control on how you steer, but not much. It's very difficult to steer on walls. With that being said, when we talk about concave walls, which are these walls that turn inward, and convex walls, which are the walls that turn outwards, they can also change the physics of wall riding. So on a convex wall, which is a wall that turns outward, it's very difficult to stick to it, and typically when you start hitting that outward motion on the wall, you typically fall off of it. But with these concave walls, you can actually use it to get more speed to wall ride longer. So there's a lot of panels that are on the inside of these concave walls. The only difficult thing with working with concave walls, which is this internal one we're working with now, you get a lot of speed on them, and you typically always want to go up and out, similar to real life physics. If you throw an object around a circle, it wants to work up and out unless it's built downwards, and that's where the other piece comes into play. Walls that are going downhill versus walls that are going uphill can drastically increase or decrease the amount of time that you're in air as well. So if you have a wall that is on a downward slope and you wall ride that wall, you will typically stay on it much longer than a wall if you're going uphill. So there's just a lot of real life mechanics and physics behind the wall ride functionality. With that being said, again, on any of those walls, you can increase your time with a mushroom, a star, or anything like that. It doesn't drastically increase or decrease it, and it's also extremely difficult to steer on any wall, even if you're a master, but how you go into that wall can definitely make a large difference. And that wraps up all the different ways that you can wall ride and the wall riding mechanic overall. I am not a pro by any means, but if this video did help you out, please make sure you leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to my channel. It helps me out in every single way. If you are new to the channel, just to give you a quick rundown, this channel is all about spreading positivity. So in every single one of our videos, we do some sort of positive quote or positive affirmation. And today's video is going to be a positive quote. And that quote is, "I'd rather regret the things in life that I've done than the things in life that I haven't done." I am extremely hard on myself, especially about this channel, because I want to make sure that I'm putting out high quality content. With that being said, I'm still growing and learning, especially as a content creator. I'm all about spreading positivity though, and my goal and mission, no matter what video I'm creating, is to make sure that we're just being hopeful and positive with each other. So that's what I'm constantly telling myself. As I am so hard on myself to release some of the videos that I post, I just remind myself that I don't want to regret not doing it, because my goal and mission is to make sure that we spread positivity positivity in the world. So I'm just constantly reminding myself of that, and I just encourage you all to do the same. Whatever it may be that you're struggling to start, just start it, because again, you could regret not doing it later on, and it's just so important to be positive with yourself as you start any process. With that being said, thank you guys so much for stopping by. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you all for stopping by. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.